Hey guys, how's it going? Lamar here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking all about Amazon pay-per-click or Amazon PPC. This is one of the most effective strategies that you can be using to launch and scale products on Amazon. Exactly 2 years ago, I was sitting in your shoes. I hadn't launched a single product on Amazon. I didn't know much about Amazon PPC. I didn't know where to begin. I didn't know how to scale these campaigns. It was completely overwhelming. The information out there was, quite frankly, conflicting. One person was saying one thing, another person was saying another thing, Amazon saying a different thing. It was completely confusing. Fast forward to today, and I am now a six-figure Amazon seller. I've launched hundreds of campaigns on Amazon. I run Amazon PPC for myself and for my clients, and I've spent over $700,000 on Amazon pay-per-click and generated millions of dollars in revenue and profit for both my business and for my clients. And I can tell you that these strategies work, and they are super effective when launching and scaling products on Amazon. And that's what I'm going to be detailing to you in today's video. I'm going to be giving you a behind the scenes look at how to build these campaigns and take them to the next level so that you guys can go out there and replicate the exact same results. If you haven't already, definitely hit that subscribe button below, guys. I'm here coming out with videos once a week, helping you build 6- and 7-figure businesses for yourselves so you can gain that financial freedom, so that you can travel the world, so that you can spend time with your family, do the things that you want to do. And this Amazon and e-commerce is a vehicle to allow you to do that. And that's what I'm here trying to provide you guys, those tips and tricks and strategies on how you can go and replicate the exact same success I'm seeing for myself. So without further ado, guys, let's jump into today's video, and I'm going to break down the exact step-by-step process for building and scaling Amazon pay-per-click campaigns. All right, guys, so let's hop in here. Like I said, this is going to be an Amazon PPC tutorial. I'm going to be taking you through the beginner all the way to expert. I'm going to be detailing everything, showing you behind the scenes within this video. All right, so let's start off here. What are you going to get out of this video? I'm first just going to go over some general thoughts about Amazon PPC, some key takeaways, where I think things are headed, and then some just important things that I think you should know or understand before we start getting into the nitty-gritty of how to build and how to scale these campaigns. Then we're going to talk about some important metrics that you have to understand before we, really start diving in and taking a look at the PPC. After that, I'm going to give you an overview of Amazon pay-per-click. So we're going to be looking at the differences between the auto and the manual campaigns, the sponsored brand targeting, or formerly the headline search ads. Then I'll be breaking down the differences between broad, phrase, and exact, and when to use them. And then last but not least, I'm going to be giving you hard, real examples. So I'm going to be showing you exactly how to set up these campaigns for success, how to optimize those campaigns on an ongoing basis. And then I'm lastly going to talk about just some advanced scenarios of, different things or common things that I have run into and basically how to deal with them. So this video is going to be packed full of awesome information. I think you're going to get a lot out of it, and I'd encourage you not to skip over any of these sections because what you may have heard before, or you might be doing something a little bit different, and the tactics or the process that I have set up here works, and everything has a reason. So I'd encourage you not to skip over something if you think you've heard it before or whatnot, because you never know. I do things differently than other people, and I've been seeing great success with my campaign. So like I said, I'd encourage you to watch the full video. All right, so let's start off with the general thoughts here. All right, my general thoughts around Amazon PPC is that this is one of the most effective launch strategies. Okay, people are out in the space talking about, giveaways, email lists, and whatnot have you. But Amazon PPC at the core is the most effective launch strategy. When you make a sale through Amazon PPC, or when a customer, performs a search on Amazon and then clicks your ad and then purchases your product, it's telling Amazon that that customer has purchased your product through that specific search term. So PPC helps your organic rank. And especially when you're just starting out, you need as many organic or natural sales from Amazon. You need to get a combination of those sales through Amazon PPC and Amazon organic rank, or just organic sales. And Amazon PPC is hands down the most effective strategy and impactful strategy for launching products on Amazon. I also want to start off by saying that Amazon PPC is new. Okay, there is not a lot of information out there around Amazon PPC, so it's pretty confusing. The information that is out there is often conflicting. If you're familiar maybe with Google AdWords or Facebook AdWords, you'd see that their systems, their ad management systems are way more advanced compared to Amazon. So Amazon's ad network, or their ad campaigns, or their portal here, is still super new, which leads into my point is it's constantly changing, right? So you need to be staying up to date with them. However, the fundamental principles of what makes Amazon advertising work is not changing. And that's exactly what I'm going to be covering in today's video, is these fundamental principles that really can set your product and campaigns up for success. Another thing that I want to mention is that you don't really need fancy software. Okay, I'm going to be taking you guys through, and I'm going to be showing you how to find data on Amazon, how to use Excel or Google Sheets to do all of our data analysis and optimize the campaigns. So there's a lot of fancy software out there in the space, that supposed to help you do or manage the campaigns. I've played around with a lot of them, and I still just keep coming back to Excel. So in today's examples, I'm just going to show you how to do this on Excel, and we're not going to need any fancy or costly software. This is all free software that's going to be completely available to you. The other important thing to note here is that this isn't hard, guys. This sounds overwhelming, but I'm going to be breaking down the concepts like super easy and super concise. And if you just follow the steps that I'm outlining in the video, this really isn't that hard. Once you do it a couple times, once you get used to it, it's just a process of repeating a couple of steps. You're going to figure it out, and you're going to be able to do this on your own. And like I said, it's one of the most impactful launch strategies. So at the very minimum, it's important that you understand how to do it. Whether you do it forever, that's a different decision, for you to make as you're scaling your business. The other thing I wanted to mention here is once a campaign starts working, right? So once we are fiddling with the numbers, once the campaign is optimized, once it's generating sales for you, don't change it. Okay, so this is super important. Don't change something unless there's a necessary issue. If there's some issue with the campaign, or it's not performing as well as we'd like it to, then we want to step in and change it. But as long as things are running smoothly and we're happy with the results, don't change it. And that's just like a pretty good rule across the board there. The next or final thing here on my thought list is the 30% rule. And this is basically saying that if you're doing Amazon pay-per-click correctly and you're maximizing it to its best results, you should be generating anywhere between 30 to 40% of your sales through Amazon pay-per-click. And I haven't heard other people talk about that, but that's generally, in my experience, kind of the sweet spot. And we can use that as a gauge to help us understand how effective our campaigns, if we're overspending, if we're underspending, if something needs to be tweaked. But in general, we're looking to acquire 30 to 40% of our sales through Amazon PPC, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to quickly review important metrics that you guys need to understand before we start building or evaluating our Amazon PPC campaigns. And I'm going to quickly go through each one of these just so that we have a general understanding of them, because I'm going to be discussing them a lot throughout this, and we need to become familiar with these terms. So the first one here is budget. Now, if we come over to our Amazon pay-per-click here, the budget, and this is just the campaign manager, the budget is what you set as the daily amount of money that you're willing to spend per day. Okay, and that can be set right here and when we're setting up the campaign. All right, so the next one is the bid. And the bid is the maximum amount you're willing to pay for a single click on a specific search term that customer is searching, right? So if we set a bid for the keyword t-shirt at $1, we're telling Amazon that we're willing to spend up to $1 per click for the keyword t-shirt. The spend is the amount of money that you've spent on the campaign thus far for the given time period, right? So that's the total amount that you've spent on that campaign. Impressions are the total number of views or impressions that your ad has been shown to customers or users on the Amazon website, right? So impressions are always going to be much higher than clicks, because the ad is going to be shown. It's like scrolling by the page. The impressions are going to be views on the page, and then it's up to the customer whether they click on the ad or not, which leads me to clicks. So after the ad has been shown to the customer has the option to make that click, and that's where clicks are recorded. So clicks are going to be recorded right next to impressions, but that's actually physically people clicking on your ad, and that is what you get charged for in Amazon PPC or pay per click, right? You're paying per click. So it's important to know and keep track of how many clicks are being generated through your campaigns. Next are sales. So this is the just dollar, the revenue number that is generated through your campaign, right? So that's just the total number of dollars that are generated through the campaign, followed by orders, which is the absolute number of orders that are generated through the campaign. And then last but not least here is the break even and A cost. So I wanted to pull up this example right here and show you guys how to just figure out your break even and your break even A cost, or advertising cost of sale. And this is going to be super important because we need to know these numbers in order for us to know whether our Amazon pay-per-click campaigns are running profitably. Okay, so let's pretend that we now have a product and it's a t-shirt. Okay, so the t-shirt retails for $14.99. And here are all just the costs associated with selling the t-shirt, right? So we have the Amazon fees, which is our referral fee, plus the FBA fee. You have your cost of goods sold, $355 in this case, and then any prep, packaging, logistics, warehousing, and then you add that up for your total unit cost, right? And that's just a simple formula that adds up all the costs associated. So if you take your cost and minus it by your retail price, that gets you your gross profit. Typically speaking, this is the amount of money your profit, not including your PPC, is your break-even point. Okay, so what we're saying here is that we can spend up to $4.76 per unit or per order to acquire a customer, and we would be essentially breaking even. So it's important to know this figure here, this gross profit dollar amount, because we're going to need to know how much we can spend to acquire a customer through Amazon PPC. To figure this out in a percentage form or an ACost form, we basically just take the profit, not including the PPC, or right here, the $4.76, and you divide it by the retail price. Okay, and this comes out to, in this case, 31.76%. So therefore, when we're evaluating our Amazon campaigns and we're looking at the ACost, if the percentage is greater than 31%, our advertising campaigns are not profitable. If it's below this 31%, then they are profitable. It means that if we are below the 31%, we're spending less than our equal to amount gross profit, and we're essentially making money on that specific campaign. So it's important to know how to figure this out, guys, and get this ACost figure so that we can drill down in here and really understand whether our campaigns are profitable or not. Let's keep going here, though. All right. Let's just talk a little bit about Amazon PPC on the website, where to find these ads, and the importance of the title and keywords. So first off, we need to really understand the title and the keywords. I'm not going to show you guys how to do the titles and the keywords. If you don't know how to do titles and keywords, you need to watch my other videos on that before jumping into Amazon PPC, because it's super important that you have your main keywords positioned correctly in your title and you have the back-end keywords filled out correctly. If you do those two things correctly, it's going to make your Amazon PPC campaigns run a lot more smoothly, because as you're going to see, Amazon needs to understand and read your listing, and the easiest way for them to do that is having hyper-relevant keywords in your listing so that there's no confusion in Amazon's eyes what your product is. And that is going to help you run super successful campaigns. So you really need to have your main keywords positioned correctly in your title and your back end. Now let's just jump in and look at auto, manual, and sponsored brands, or formerly headline search ads, so that you understand a little bit more about when we run Amazon PPC, where your ads show up. All right, so here we are on Amazon, and I'm just going to continue with the t-shirt example. All right, first we want to take a look at the search results right here. Right here at the top, this is our sponsored brand section, or headline search ads is what it was formerly known as. You need to be brand registered, but this right here are search results, and those are controlled by your sponsored brand section. When you start to scroll down this page, you start to see sponsored, 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 sponsored. These are all ads that are also controlled by either your auto or your manual campaigns that we're going to be running and setting up. As we continue down this page, we're going to run into other sponsoreds. So here are a couple more ads. These are also run or controlled by our automatic and manual campaigns that we're going to be setting up. So as throughout the search result page, you can position your product here on the first page. You can also have your organic listing. So you can have your organic listing. These are all organic listings. And you can have a sponsored ad listing. So potentially you could be taking up multiple placements on this first page if you're running your Amazon pay-per-click campaigns correctly. So in addition to the pages or the search results pages, if we were to click inside one of these and we were to scroll down and we'd start to examine the other listings here, you see sponsored products related to this item. These are controlled as well by the sponsored ads. Okay, so these are our automatic and manual campaigns. In addition, if you were to add this product to the cart, add to cart, and you look right here, it says sponsored products related to. Okay, so here again are more sponsored products. And then if we would click on cart here, you'd see sponsored products over here on the right-hand side. Okay, so even as there's multiple placements there. There's the search results page. There's the product listing page, and then throughout the checkout process, there are placements or opportunities for you to place ads that the customers can see as they're continuing to check out. In addition, and which is not often talked about, Amazon runs ads. Okay, so Amazon will run ads for your product outside of Amazon. You know, they have their own network. They may run them on Google. They may run them on Facebook. So Amazon often promotes your products outside of Amazon in an attempt to basically retarget those customers and pull them back on Amazon to purchase your product or other people's products. But oftentimes we're also going to see that in the data as well, and I'm going to show you how to pick that out or identify it. But just so you know that Amazon is also running ads for your products outside of Amazon in an attempt to bring them back. So those are all the main ad placements that we kind of have control over to some extent, or are going to be drilling down into optimizing those campaigns. So let's continue on here. All right, so now I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Amazon PPC and specifically the manual targeting. And just stay with me here, guys, for a second and let me explain this. It's going to make much more sense when I actually walk through an example, but it's important for us to understand these components before we go and set up the campaigns. So a seed keyword is basically the keyword that we're going to be inputting into the campaign or the Amazon campaign. So we're basically, let's say that we have a product and our product is a t-shirt and we're going to be bidding on a t-shirt keyword. So we're going to put that into the campaign. And when we're setting up manual campaigns, we also need to select a broad phrase or an exact match targeting. And these are the different scenarios that can happen when we select each one. So let's say that we put in the seed keyword of t-shirt and we select broad. Well, Amazon will show our ad or potentially show our ad to a customer who searches any of the following. Okay, so a t-shirt, this could be like a misspelling or a different misspelling of the same keyword. Amazon might show the ad if the customer puts a word in front of or behind our C keyword. Amazon might show the ad if a customer searches a phrase where they enter a word in between our C keyword. Or they might just take out or replace different keywords or switch them around. So in this final case, they could potentially show our ad if the customer searched shirt for men. So broad is the most, it's the widest net that we can cast. When we put in t-shirt for the seed keyword and we select broad, Amazon will display our ad across the board to a lot of different variations of this search term. And as these examples show here, you can really be showing up for a large variety of different search queries. As we move along here to phrase, it gets a little bit more specific. So phrase, the customer must put, your ad will be displayed if the customer puts a word before or after your seed keyword. So in this case, large t-shirt, t-shirt XL, t-shirt for men. The phrase of your seed keyword is still intact, and then a word is inserted before or after. Okay, so it gets a little bit more specific in how we're isolating the search queries around our keyword. And the final way of manual targeting is exact. And exact is just that, as in, if we choose exact, your ad will only show for search queries that meet the exact seed keyword that you've put in there, with the exception of plurals. So t-shirt and t-shirts will display your ad if you were to select t-shirt as your base keyword. All right, so there we have just a quick understanding or general overview of the manual targeting. And when I go to show you real examples of this, it's going to make a lot more sense. So now let's talk about setting up the campaigns. Setting up the campaigns, we want to start out with an auto campaign and a manual campaign. Within that manual campaign, we're then going to establish 2 to 3 ad groups that all have your single product within them. Okay, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean in just a second here, but I wanted to give you an outline here so that we're all on the same page. You're going to establish one campaign that's an automatic and one campaign that's your manual. And then within that manual campaign, we're going to make an ad group that's a broad, and we're going to advertise one product. We're going to make an ad group that's a phrase. And this is actually optional, and I'm going to explain it a little bit later on. But we're definitely going to, and then we're going to finally have an ad group that's exact, and then we're going to have your single product in there. So this over here is just my naming scheme, and I'm going to show you just in a second how I do this. But like I said, we're going to name t-shirt auto, t-shirt manual, and then we're going to add t-shirt broad, phrase, and exact. All right, so now let's actually set this up in Amazon so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm going to come into the campaign manager. I'm going to hit create campaign. Here we're going to select sponsored products, right? Sponsored brands was what I just explained earlier, but we need to be brand registered to do that. So we're going to select our sponsored products. All right, so the first campaign, like I said, is we're going to set up the automatic. So we're going to come back here, and I'm going to name this T-shirt auto. And it's important, guys, that you label these campaigns the way that I'm doing it. And I'm going to explain why a little bit later on, but there's a reason why, and you just want to follow the structure. So it's T-shirt auto, which is exactly right what I had over here, T-shirt auto. Typically, you could set your daily budget. I do anywhere from, $10 to $20 typically when I'm starting out my campaigns, and then I'll adjust that a little bit later on, but we can just put in $20. I'm going to select the automatic targeting. I'm going to create an ad group name. So I'm just going to name this again auto, because this is my automatic campaign. And then I'm going to find the t-shirt product. So I'm going to find my product, I'm going to add the product into as the ad group, and then I'm going to select the bid. Okay, important to note here, guys, is that the suggested bid is saying it's $1.18, and the bid range is from 88 cents to $1.50. Automatic campaigns I usually always set as my lowest bid across the board. Since the suggested bid here is $1.18, I might raise this a little bit. Maybe I'll go to like 95 cents, or maybe I'll just like start it out at 75 cents. It really doesn't matter, because as we monitor the campaign going forward, and if we're not getting enough clicks or impressions, then we're going to have to increase the bids anyways. So it's better off to start off like a little bit on the lower end so that we're not overspending. So for the automatic campaign, I'm usually starting at below the suggested bid. And in this case, I'll start off at 95 cents. And we're just we're not gonna add in any negative keywords right now. And that's pretty much it. So we just set the default bid at, maybe the lower end of the suggested bid range, select our product, and then we launch the campaign. And there you have it. We've just successfully launched our first automatic campaign. Congratulations. All right, so now guys, we're gonna go and we're gonna create our manual campaign. So we're gonna repeat the same process. We're gonna go and click create a campaign. We're gonna do a sponsored product. We're gonna name this one similar but a little bit different. So it's gonna be t-shirt manual. We're gonna set the daily budget at the same, so $20, and we're gonna choose manual targeting here. So that's really important that we still use manual targeting, because we're going to be putting in our own keywords. We're going to set the ad group name to broad. T-shirt broad. Okay, and this is following the exact setup guide that I have right here. T-shirt dash broad, and then we're going to add in our single product listing. So we're going to find the product, add that product, so we're only advertising one product underneath the t-shirt broad. We're going to select the targeting as keyword targeting. So we are now going to choose keywords that help our products appear in the shopper searches. We're gonna the default keyword bid here, I'm going to set at equal to the auto campaign or a little bit higher. So for this case, I'll just leave it at 95 cents for right now, because that was the same as our auto campaign. And I might end up changing this, and I'm going to show you why in a second, but I'm going to set it at least equal to the auto campaign. Next, there's going to be suggested keywords here, and if you've done your title and your keywords and your listing correctly, Amazon should show you hyper relevant suggested keywords. And as long as the match type says broad right here, you can just add a couple of them to your campaign. It doesn't really matter. You can do it this way, or you can enter your own keywords and put them in the back end here, and then we can add them that way. The important thing to note here is that we're only looking to add 5 to 10 seed keywords for the broad match type. Okay, we don't need to go overboard here. Reason being is it's likely going to lead to overspending. It's also likely going to lead to not relevant traffic, clicking on, or your ad being exposed to, and then people clicking on your ad, which is then going to just dump on a lot of unqualified traffic on your listing, and is actually going to hurt your conversion rate and potentially impact negatively your product page listing. And especially if it's a brand new product that you've just launched, you want to really be focused on getting relevant traffic onto that listing. And the easiest way to do that is through hyper targeted keywords that only describe your product. So you can just add in a couple of keywords, 5 to 10, like I said, that all describe your product. And actually, they're going to display some other related keywords right down here at the bottom. You can just select some of those, or if you've used a keyword research tool to create your product title and your back-end keywords, you can just pull 5 to 10 of the most searched and highly relevant keywords and put them into your broad campaign here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So I've already done that, and I've put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 broad keywords. They're all a little bit different, but at the same time highly related to the product that I'm advertising for. And then I'm just going to hit add keywords. All right, so now you can see that all the 5 keywords have been added. Now here's where I'm going to look at the suggested bid and adjust my keyword bids. Typically when I'm running the broad campaign, I like having the keywords bids being consistent just so that things stay organized for myself. But I want them to be above the suggested bid. So I might look at, like, most of these are $1, this is $1.50, $1.35, $1.70 or 87. I'll probably change this to like let's say 196. And I'll just go ahead and I'll just change them all to 196 so that like it just stays organized and consistent. I'm not exactly sure why t-shirt, which is probably the most generic keyword here, is only suggested bid is 5 cents. That looks like wrong to me, or a little suspicious. So I'd probably just leave at 196. That way the keyword bid is above all of the suggested bids here. And do this within reason, right? Like, don't go crazy putting the keyword bid like really ridiculously high. Try to find like an average or something that would split all of them and make sense. Typically you can run broad campaigns from anywhere from like $1 to $2. This is, in my experience, a little bit high. Typically I'll set the broad campaigns across the board at like $1.25, but this might be a more competitive category, and every category is different. So then you're going to set that across the board all consistent, and then I'm going to launch the campaign. All right, guys, so now I just wanted to point out here are the 2 campaigns that we just created, T-shirt auto and T-shirt manual. And when we click in to each of them, this is the manual one, you'll see that T-shirt manual is the campaign name, and then we have an ad group that's called T-shirt broad. And this is going to make a lot of sense when we go and look at that search term report, which is going to have all that juicy Amazon data in it. But then we click in with the ad group, and our single product is listed here. And then if we click on targeting, you can go over and you can see all the keywords that we're bidding on and the bid amount. All right, so that's the way that these are set up right now. And we're basically done. We have set up our campaigns like for success. And now what we're going to do is just wait. We're going to wait a couple of days, and we're going to come back and make sure that we're getting impressions and clicks. As a general rule of thumb, both of your auto and your manual campaigns, you need to be seeing 10,000 impressions per day. Okay, so if you're not receiving those number of impressions across like your full campaign, like if you were to go back and view at all campaigns and see that you're getting that many impressions right here, what you'd want to do is either increase the budget, so your budget's not enough for the day, or your bids. So if we come into the auto and you're seeing that like the auto is only getting 100 impressions per day or something, that's just not enough. And that would tell me that you need to increase your default bid. So maybe I'd jump it up another 20 cents and I'd put it at $1.15 here. Likewise for the broad, if it's not getting several thousands of impressions per day, then we want to think about increasing the bids and or the budget. So it's important to come back and check day after day just to make sure that we are getting those impressions. But we're not going to optimize the campaigns at all. We need to wait a little bit longer for that. But the initial gauge here is just to make sure that we're getting enough impressions on those campaigns within the first couple of days so that we know that our bids are set correctly. All right, guys, so now we've got the campaigns set up, right? We've established an auto campaign, we've established our manual campaign, and we've made a broad campaign or a broad ad group. The broad ad group and the auto ad group, you can think of them as like a net. We're casting a really wide net out there in Amazon with our product, and we're seeing how the customers respond to our ad with our keyword targeting. Okay, so we cast this really wide net, and then after we see like which keywords we start catching on, we start to move them into these other match types. Okay, so we cast a really wide net, and then we select the converting terms or the terms that have potential, and we start to shift them around. You have to wait at least 2 to 3 weeks after you set this up and after you're getting, like I said, those 5 to 10,000 impressions per day. After you start establishing that and you run those campaigns for 2-3 weeks, then we can start to optimize it. Okay, but you have to let things run for some time before you start optimizing it. And typically 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks is that sweet spot where you can first go in there and start to optimize it. So now, since we've set that up, we're going to pretend that those campaigns have been running for 2 weeks and we have some good data and that they've been running successfully. And I'm going to show you now how to start optimizing them. All right, so if we're in our campaign manager here, we're going to go to advertising reports. We are going to select the report period. Guys, we're going to change this to go back as far as you can, right? So if you've only been running the campaign for 2 weeks, you're only going to have 2 weeks of data. But if we've been running this longer, you can go back up to 2 months, and we want to go back up to 2 months. So we get as much data as we can from Amazon, hit apply. Search term, we want the search term report. The unit data is total, sponsored products, and then you're just going to hit create report. So it's going to generate the report here, and then you can download this. And this is the Excel file that we're going to use to optimize the report. All right, guys, so that's downloaded, and we're just going to upload that into Excel. All right, perfect. So this is basically the search term report that now I've uploaded into Excel here. And this is all real data. So we're going to be, looking at this as if this was a real search term report. I just downloaded it from Amazon, and I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to go and optimize this campaign. Okay, so it's been uploaded. The first thing I'm going to do here, guys, is just create a filter. Okay, so you go to data. In this case, it was already on, but you're going to go to data and you're going to create a filter. Okay, the filter is going to allow us to manipulate this big data set that we have here and help us control how we view this so that we can view this intelligently and make informed decisions about it. All right. The first thing to notice here that I'm going to point out is the campaign name. Okay, and this is why we structure the campaigns in the way that I just described, because if you notice here, the campaign is T-shirt manual, which is exactly how we named our campaign. And then we have T-shirt auto, which is the auto campaign that we've set up that Amazon is running automatically for us. And then we have our ad group name. So we named this exactly the same, t-shirt broad. So we know this is our broad campaign, and then we have our auto campaign so that we can easily identify the campaign, the match type, and the product that we're advertising, right? So Amazon isn't very clear. They don't tell you which product you're advertising in here in the event that you're, advertising multiple products. That's why you want to name the ad group the name of the product dash the targeting, so that it's really clear when we go to analyze this. The first thing that we want to take a look at and look for are converting search terms. Converting search terms, I'm going to define as anything with 2+ orders. Okay, so the only thing that we really need to be concerned about at this point in time here is finding out which search terms. Here are the list, the customer search terms. Which search terms have converted 2+ orders? So we're going to scroll over here and we're going to find 7-day total orders. And here they all are. And we're going to put a filter on here and we're going to sort Z to A. So now we have all of this orders in order here. And we can see clearly that these are 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 5, 4. Okay. So these are all the search terms right here that have resulted in at least 2+ orders. So we're going to come over here and I'm just going to highlight them so that we can see which search terms are converting. So what we want to do is take all of these search terms that are converting, except for the exception of these, and these are ASINs, right? And which I'm going to explain to you in just a second. But we can't target a specific ASIN number. We can only target search terms. So we're going to take these search terms, and since they've resulted in 2+ orders, we're going to target them with an exact target match in our campaign. So I'm going to copy them and I'm going to come back over to Amazon. I'm going to go to the campaigns. I'm going to go into the manual campaign and I'm going to create a new ad group. And I'm going to name this one T-shirt exact, following the same structure. I'm going to find that same product, add that product, and for keyword targeting, I'm going to enter in my own keywords. Okay, so we're going to enter in our own keywords. I'm going to change the match type to exact, and I'm going to change the keyword default bid to above what I was bidding for on the broad. So if I was bidding $1.96, I think it was, on the broad, I'm going to make these $1, or I'll make these like 2.06. So maybe like 10 cents more. And I'm going to put them in, and I'm going to put them here. I'm going to take out the ASINs because we can't target ASINs. I'll explain to you in a second what those mean. But now we have all of our keywords that have 2+ conversions, and I'm setting them at $1.06 default keyword bid, and then I'm going to hit add keywords. So now all the keywords have been added here, and you can kind of see that the suggested bid, we're seated pretty good as far as the suggested bid here. I mean, I wouldn't worry too much about this just yet, because we're going to have to optimize the bids a little bit later on. I would just start off by saying that the keyword bids should be above what you had in auto and broad, and that's what we did here. So it's 10 cents above. And then you would just hit create ad group. So now if we come back, Now we have a t-shirt broad and a t-shirt exact. And the default bid is $1.96 for the broad and $2.06 for the default bid in the exact. So we've successfully added now all of our converting search terms into our exact. Now guys, you might have noticed that I didn't set up a phrase ad group. And the reason being is a phrase ad group, in my opinion, is kind of optional. Either if you have a larger budget, or you are really trying to identify long tail keywords, you can put these keywords, the converting keywords, into your phrase. But oftentimes, like, your broad campaign is going to find the converting keywords, and phrase match just, like, honestly really confuses a lot of the data. It just makes it more complicated than it needs to be. So my personal preference is not using phrase, and I discover a lot of my keywords through broad and auto, and then I just move them directly into exact. And it's kind of up to you if you want to experiment with phrase or not. I will show you how to do that. It's basically the exact same process. You go and create ad group. You just name this t-shirt phrase. Find your product. You're going to do keyword targeting. You'd enter the keywords. Again, you'd change the match type to phrase. You'd enter in the converting keywords. And you'd want to set the default bid of something that's above broad and below exact. And this is why I think that it gets just a little bit confusing and hard to manage, especially when you have multiple products, is that you want your exact match targeting keyword to be your highest bid. And when you're running auto, when you're running broad, when you're running phrase, and you're running exact, it gets kind of confusing and hard to manage with all these different match types and all these different bids going on. So I've been able to simplify the process by just running auto, broad, and exact, and making sure that that exact bid is the highest bid or highest default bid. But if you wanted to experiment with phrase, you would do this, and then you would set it up at probably 201 or something like that, where in the sense of the bid for the phrase would be in between your broad and your exact, because like I said, you want to make sure that your exact match type is your highest bid. And then you hit create ad group. All right, so moving on here, now let's talk about, we've found the converting search terms, we've added them into the exact match and optionally the phrase match. But like I said, if this is just your first campaign or you're just getting started, I would just honestly just skip over phrase for right now. You can always come back and add them in later. But important things to note is moving in those converting search terms into the exact and making sure those exact bids are higher than your broad and auto campaigns. Now we're going to look at finding problem search terms. So problem search terms have a high spend and no sales, high clicks and no sales, or a high A cost. So we're going to come back over to our search term report, right? So these are the ones that are converting. The first thing we're going to look for are high spend and no sales. So what I would do here is go over here and filter spend, and I'd sort high to low. And immediately we start to identify high spend keywords with no sales. And you can see that it's just 0 sales, or the 7-day total sales is 0. So it's really easy to identify. One little trick here is we want to make sure, before we do anything, we want to make sure that we have enough data. Okay? Generally speaking, if your product listing has a conversion rate of 10%, so that means 100 people visit your product page, 10% of those people, or 10 people, will purchase your product. If that's the case, you need to see at least 10 clicks here before you should receive one sale. So if you have 30 clicks or 80 clicks in this case and 0 sales, then you know that this search term is not converting for your product. So what I would do is immediately here be like 30, 35, 80, 0 sales. These are bad search terms. And I would highlight them, and I usually change them and I make them red. And that's just a little tip for me, because I'm going through here, I'm going to identify problem search terms, and then I'm going to make my optimizations in Amazon. And the way that I do that is through color coding. And I'm also just going to take note of the customer search term. So clothes for adults. That kind of makes sense because I'm selling a t-shirt, and clothes for adults is a little bit too broad. And that's why it's generated 80 clicks and no search terms. Same thing, waterproof shirt for men. There's just too many waterproof shirts out there for men. It's probably not related enough directly to my product. Hasn't resulted in any sales. Gifts for men. Here again, too broad of a customer search term to generate any sales. So these ones are automatically out. And I'm going to deal with them in a little bit after I go through the rest of this. So then we continue. We see large t-shirt, gifts for men, also 20, 22 clicks, no sales. So I'd make them red. The other one I'd probably do right here, t-shirt black has 12 clicks and no sales. Assuming, again, a conversion rate of 10%, I'll make that red. And then that's basically all we can do. I mean, this search term, t-shirt for men happy, whatever that means. I mean, it's only gotten 10 clicks. We haven't generated a sale there. I mean, that's like borderline, right? You could say that this is a poor performer, or you might want to wait a little bit longer and get a little bit more data so that you can just be a little bit more confident before we go and make any decision about this search term. So for right now, I would probably just leave it. The next thing I'm going to do is just sort by clicks. So we were just sorting by spend there. I'm also just going to sort by clicks and just make sure that I haven't missed out on any terms that have resulted in 10 plus clicks but no sales. And it doesn't look like I have. So the spend was able to take care of most of that. And then last but not least, I'm going to just take a quick look at the advertising cost of sale, or my A cost. And if you remember earlier, our A cost, or our break-even A cost, was 30%. So I'm just going to sort this by high to low. And I'm just going to look at, so far right now, the converting search terms and what the A cost is coming in as. So as you can see, the A cost right now for these products are all profitable because our break-even A cost was 30%. So we're acquiring customers at an A cost of 17, 13, 12, 10% and below. So I'm not going to touch these at all. I'm just going to let them, they're working, they're in cruise control. I'm going to see how they continue to develop over the next couple of weeks, and then I might make tweaks to them. But they're below our 30%, and things are in our favor at this point. So I'm just going to let them run. So one thing to point out here is that the cost per click. If you remember that our automatic campaign was running at 95 cents and our manual campaigns were running at $1.96. So just because we have a higher bid doesn't necessarily mean that that is what we are going to be paying per click. That is just our max bid. And depending on the marketplace and the average and your competition, you can be acquiring clicks for much lower than that, right? Like I said, we're just setting our max bid, and in this case, right, we're acquiring clicks for around the 95 to 90, dollar range, right? So those aren't bad results. And if this were to continue, if this were to continue, we could consider lowering our bid, but only really if the advertising or the ACoS starts to get high, right? I mean, if we're acquiring customers at 1 to 17%, like I said, if it's working, don't touch it. So I would probably just continue to let this run as is. So now let's take a look, and we need to do something with these keywords that are not performing well. So let's sort this again by spend. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is just take a look at the auto campaign, right? So we've organized this or structured the campaign appropriately so that we can easily identify the campaign name, and the ad group name is auto. So I'm just going to look for the auto ones. I'm going to come back to Amazon. I'm going to go into my auto campaign. I'm going to click into the ad group here. And basically the only way that we can optimize the auto is by adjusting the bid or adding a negative targeting or negative keywords. So I'm going to click on the negative targeting, and I'm going to add these as negative keywords, these bad performing auto customer search terms. So I would take clothes for adults, and I'd put it in here. I would take the next auto, gifts for men, and I'd put it in here. Here are two more, large t-shirt and gifts for men actually came up again twice, so we're just going to add those in. So there you have it. It was 3, and I'm going to change the match type to negative exact. Now this is super important, because if you have it as negative phrase, what'll end up happening is that any search terms that contain this phrase, so again, if there's a word before or after, will also get negatived, and your ad will not show for that. So we don't want to do that. We want to do a negative exact, because we only want to remove these search terms from showing our ad. And then I would just add keywords. So then you have these, and then you're going to save. So now you've added these 3 keywords and they're all negative exact, to your ad group auto. Now that's pretty much done. And one little trick that I do is I tend to bold them after I've completed this task. So now we know we're just looking for waterproof shirt for men, and that is located in the manual campaign under the ad group broad, and waterproof shirt for men, and the manual campaign t-shirt black is in the broad ad group underneath the same manual campaign. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to go back to my campaigns. I'm going to find the manual campaign. I'm going to click into my broad and repeat the same process. So I'm going to go to negative targeting, add negative keywords. I'm going to change the match type to exact. I'm going to come back, waterproof shirt for men. I'm going to add in here an exact. And t-shirt black, I'm going to add in here as exact. And negative exact, add these keywords, save. So what we did just right there was that now, since we've negatived these customer search terms, our ads will no longer show up for these search terms. Okay, so we spent $85, $33, $29 so far on this campaign. We're no longer going to show up for these terms anymore, and we're going to stop spending budget for these specific search terms. So now more of the budget will be either applied to the better converting terms or all these other terms that we don't have enough data for yet. So that's why it's important to come in here, every 2 weeks to just continue to optimize and trim these PPC campaigns. And it just continues to improve over time. So now that was kind of like the first optimization that we do 2 weeks after, where we're mainly just adding in negative exact key terms both into the auto and into the broad. And those are the main two tactics for optimizing the automatic campaign and your broad campaign. Now, let's talk about adjusting bids and performing optimizations that might happen, a month after you've started your campaign, or 2 months and going into the future. And this is where it gets a little bit challenging for some people, because it can be a little bit complicated. But like I said, I'm going to take you through a couple of very common examples and show you exactly how to deal with them so that you can, really start driving these sales with a low ACoS. So we're going to repeat the same process. You would go to advertising reports. You're going to pull up the customized report period. You're going to grab as much data as you can, go back 2 months, total, apply, search term, create report. You're going to download this report and you're going to upload it into Excel. All right, so great. Here we have now the updated, this is now, we're now looking like 1-2 months after we've been running the campaigns. We're going to turn on the filter, and we're basically just going to repeat that same process. So we're going to come over here. We're going to sort by orders. We're going to look at all of our orders that have had 2 or more conversions. We're going to come over here. I'm going to find the search terms that have converted 2+ orders. I'm going to copy them. I'm going to go to my ad campaigns. I'm going to go into my t-shirt exact campaign. I'm going to go to targeting, add keywords, enter keywords, and I'm just going to paste in all of those keywords. We want to make sure that we change the match type to exact, and we're just going to hit add keywords. And we're going to keep the bid at the 206 mark, which is our default bid, and we're going to add them in there. All right, so now that we've added in all of our converting search terms, that's step number 1. Now we're going to take a look at reducing some of the PPC or the high ACoS or the problem search terms that we might have. Okay, so here again, I just sorted by top spend. And what I'm looking at here is the high spend and the ACoS. So if you remember, we calculated that our break-even ACoS is 30%. So technically anything over 30% is not profitable for us, and we need to make some sort of an adjustment. And if it's right borderline, like at 33%, maybe, we also want to make some sort of an adjustment here. So I typically designate red as negative exacting something, or red color as I'm going to remove it from the campaign, as yellow as I want to make a bid optimization. So this one is above our 30%. So I would probably make this yellow and just remind myself that I want to adjust the bid, right? Because this is a bid adjustment. It's acquiring customers, right? It's actually acquired a ton of customers. It's acquiring 37 customers or 37 orders, which is like a lot of orders. It's our number 1 performing search term, right? T-shirt. So we want to make sure that we're careful with this one, but it is a little bit higher above our ACoS than where we would like to be. So I'm going to label that one yellow. This one, 27%. I mean, I guess we could leave that. We could kind of leave that alone. It's like borderline. This one's 64%. So this is like pretty high, right? So we definitely want to mark this one as yellow because we need to make some sort of an optimization there. This one's too high too, so we want to make an optimization there. This one's too high. We want to make an optimization there. And now we start looking down a little bit lower. So this is t-shirts in the broad. It's okay. This one's okay. Large t-shirts okay. This one here's another waterproof t-shirt. This one is acquiring customers or acquiring orders, but it is above our ACost of 36%. So we either have two options here. Since this one is in our broad, we can actually negative exact this search term, right? You can't negative exact an exact match unless it's a plural, just because you're only targeting one specific keyword. So you can't negative exact an exact match, right? But in broad, our target keyword, our seed keyword is t-shirt. So we're showing up for a lot of other related search terms to t-shirt, and it's just this single search term that's not performing. So we can actually negative this one. And that's why you negative in broad, but you don't necessarily, or it's not always possible to negative an exact. And so you have to reduce bids in exact, but you can negative in broad. Same thing, man shirt 60%, so we're going to want to reduce that. And then the rest of these are all okay. Here's an exact t-shirt with car pattern. This one might be a little bit high as well. So I'm going to come into my manual broad campaign, or my exact campaign here. And I'm going to go to targeting. And now I'm going to be looking at the bids. So I'm going to pull up all the bids here. And I'm just going to start going through each one of these. So the exact t-shirt is at a 33% ACost. So I'm just going to bold this because I'm already going to deal with it. And I'll probably just drop it like the bid maybe 10%, let's just say, okay, to try to deal with this. I wouldn't drop it too much more than that. It's either like 5 to 10% of whatever the bid is that you have right here. And we want to make small adjustments over time. So I might just lower this to 186, right? For example, so I'll drop it 20 cents and I'd hit save. So now I just continue to repeat that process. I'd probably anything that is above here, and I would just start to reduce the bids on these. So we can do that together. T-shirt of car. T-shirt of car. I put in 186. Hit save. And then what was the other one? Short sleeve cotton t-shirt for men. I would do the same thing, and I just reduce these bids. Okay. All right, so one important thing to note here is, like I said earlier, for the exact match targeting, when our C word is t-shirt, or we have a non-plural seed keyword, plural search term can be displayed in the exact. So when we're dealing with a scenario like this where you have t-shirt, and I'll just mark this in blue so that you guys can easily see it. It's the same seed keyword, but it's being displayed two different ways to customers, in the non-plural and in the plural form. And our options here are basically to reduce the bid, which we've already done for the seed keyword t-shirt. So actually the performance of this one will also probably continue to improve because we just dropped the bid 20%. However, if you wanted to, maybe you came back again and t-shirts plural was still not performing well, what you would want to do is copy this one, copy the search term, the plural form, and just add that as a negative directly into the exact. So you'd come over here into your exact campaign, you go to negative targeting, you would add the keyword negative exact, you'd paste that in there, t-shirts in the plural form, and you would add keyword. But maybe since this is a new campaign and you've been running it, you haven't been running it that long, and since we already did reduce the bid, you might just want to hang out for another 2 weeks, and then if you come back in 2 weeks and the ACoS is still really high for t-shirts, then you can add that as a negative exact in the exact match campaign. I did just also want to quickly sort here by clicks and see if we're missing any high clicks, which doesn't look like we are. Yeah, I mean, that's basically the process that I go through every 2 weeks per product to optimize the campaigns. So yeah, there you guys have it. You pretty much just want to repeat that process every 2 weeks, finding those converting search terms, adding them into exact, finding the problem search terms and either negativing them or reducing the bid slowly. And you just continue to repeat that process every 2 weeks until your campaigns become, until you become happy with your campaigns, until they become profitable, like money-making, sales-generating machines. And that is basically the process. I know you guys might have some questions. Feel free to drop a comment below. I did just want to talk a little bit more about advanced tips. Okay, so advanced tips here, the first advanced tips are negativing competing brand names. So in this case, let's say that you're looking at your search term report and you come across something like this right here. And let's say that this was this was in your auto ad group or your auto campaign, and you see an ASIN. Well, I would typically take this ASIN and I'd go to Amazon and I'd punch this ASIN into Amazon. And I would look and I would see what this product was. If this was a poor performing search term, I would take the brand name here and I would negative that in the auto campaign wherever the ad was being displayed. So I'd take that brand name and I'd add it as a negative phrase in this case, because I don't want my ad to show at all for that brand name, right? But in this case, it's successful ACoS. But I just wanted to show you that if you're running a search term, if you're getting a bunch of ASINs in here and it's not performing well, you can look up the brand, you can take their brand name, and then you can add it in as a negative in the respective campaign. Next is that this search term report, guys, is really the only official search data that comes straight from Amazon. This is a highly impactful data resource for you guys. And if you look at this and you study this and you're seeing that you're acquiring a lot of orders or sales through specific search terms in here, you want to make sure that you update your listing with the respective search terms, right? So in this case, we're acquiring 37 orders from this main search term. So obviously t-shirt is going to be our main keyword. And if that wasn't in our title, well, then we have bigger problems. But we want to make sure that those main search terms are in our title, our back end throughout our listing. So we can use this search term data report as an official resource from Amazon on helping us identify where customers are purchasing our products, through which search terms they're purchasing our products from. And we want to make sure that we add them into the listing. The other thing that I wanted to make note of is that you should keep a rolling document of a date and change that you're making to your listings. So it's like I do this in Excel where I'll have the SKU and then I'll just have the date. And then anytime that I'm making a change to the listing, I'm keeping track of those changes in the Excel spreadsheet, just so that I know and I can go back and I can kind of track the changes or the impact that we're having on the listings over time. One of the main missing features here on Amazon is it's really hard to track the changes, to see the impact that the changes that you're having and how they're impacting the listing over time. And as you know, there's just a lot of variables on Amazon. Things are going on. You know, you're changing listings, or like you have competitors entering the market. There's a lot of things that are happening. So it's a good idea to just track those changes in an Excel spreadsheet or some sort of document so that you can always reference them and kind of attribute the different changes and the impact that it's having. Next here is dealing with variation or child SKUs. So the way that you would want to do this, let's say that you have your t-shirt and you have a graphic on the t-shirt. So you have a truck graphic and a car graphic and a motorcycle graphic. In my experience, we don't know which graphic is going to result in the best results for your Amazon PPC campaigns. And I would set them all up as separate individual ad groups, okay, until you've identified one SKU that is the best performing, and then I would probably shut down the other ones or keep the other ones running on a minimum basis. But if we come back to this, in the manual campaign, you're going to set up a t-shirt auto, let's say truck, t-shirt car auto, and t-shirt motorcycle auto. So you'd set it up in that kind of a structure. And then likewise with the manual, you would have a t-shirt car broad, t-shirt truck broad, and t-shirt motorcycle broad. And the reason for that is you don't know exactly what search terms the customers are going to search for and purchase the products through. You might find that a lot of people are actually searching t-shirt car, and t-shirt car performs like really well with that search term, but not so well for, you know, t-shirt truck. So you want to have the maximum control over your PPC campaigns, and that is the way that I would suggest setting them up. And I'm going to probably have to create another video on just doing variations, but you want to make sure that each SKU, especially if it's a design variation, has its own ad group. So you'll have one SKU for broad, your next SKU will have a separate broad ad group, and your third SKU will have a third broad ad group. I also wanted to just talk a little bit about the impact of not running PPC. So in my experience, I've experimented with just completely shutting down PPC and what is the impact on the sales. I can tell you that maybe for a couple of weeks, not running PPC, you're still able to maintain that search rank or that organic sales velocity that you might have had while running PPC. The issue is 3-4 weeks later, you really start to see a decline. I think that this is going to be dependent on, you know, the category and the placement, how competitive it is. There's a lot of variables, but in my experience, you pretty much are always going to need to run PPC. And like I said earlier at the beginning, is that 30 to 40% of your PPC campaigns, or 30 to 40% of your sales will be driven through PPC, and that's a large percentage. So you really want to make sure that you have these optimized, and the impact of not running PPC has often been negative in my experience. The other thing that I'm going to probably have to talk to a little bit about in a different video, but I did want to just mention that you can experiment with, is seasonal or monthly pulsing. So if you know, like, you have a lot of sales come Christmas time or a lot of sales come springtime, you can reduce your daily budget. So I wouldn't say that you're like shutting off your budget completely on Amazon PPC, but maybe you're only spending $10 a day. And then when you really want to pick it up, you want to scale it up and spend like $50 or $100 per day. And that's kind of like where I'm pulsing. Whereas like, there's like enough demand out there, but it's like a low season. You don't necessarily want to spend a lot of PPC for whatever reason. You can reduce your daily spend and then really ramp it up when it comes like that high season. So there you guys have it. I hope that this video has been useful. I tried to break out and give you as much like clear, concise information on my strategy of how I've been able to see massive positive results by implementing these tactics, this strategy for launching and scaling Amazon PPC campaigns. If you guys have any questions, please drop a comment below. I'm happy to answer and help you guys out anymore. But without further ado, guys, I'll see you in the next video, and have a great weekend.